All the Books is a picture book about a little chipmunk who loves books but won't share them with others until she learns about a place that has all the books. Hi, I'm Dan Skinner, and welcome to the Kids Bookshelf. Ahead, we'll explore the book and talk with the creators about the inspiration behind it. Hayley Rocco is the author of How to Send a Hug, her first collaboration with her husband John. John Rocco is a #1 New York Times bestselling author and illustrator of many acclaimed books for children, including Blackout and How We Got to the Moon. They join us to talk about all the books. Hayley and John, welcome to the Kids Bookshelf.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for having us, Dan. It's great to be here.
Well, this book is all about books, so tell us about sort of the inspiration for this and why you wanted to tell this story.
Well, Dan, I grew up a library kid, and that's where I developed my love for books. And each week, my mom would take us to the library and we'd bring home big stacks of books. And I remember on one occasion, I came home and I must have been 7 or 8. And I remember asking my mom, how old will I be when I've read all the books? And of course, she smiled and laughed, and she said, well, you can certainly give it a try. And so that was really the inspiration behind all the books.
Well, tell us about the story here that readers are going to find.
So this is about a very plucky chipmunk, Piper Waterstone, who she hoards all of her books. She loves her books so much. She collects them and she brings them with her wherever she goes. And she learns about the magic of a library card. Ultimately, the story is about celebrating libraries and having access to all the books and the magic of that library card.
Well, I want to talk to you about the process of putting together a picture book in just a moment, but would you read a small portion of the book for us to give us a taste of what readers are going to find here?
Absolutely. Piper Waterstone could not share her books. You see, her books were special, rare, even magical. Her books brought her to other worlds, faraway galaxies, and even back in time. And to keep them safe, she took her books with her everywhere she went. Through spring, summer, fall, and winter, her books were never out of her sight.
This is a book that's, as you said, about books, about the love of books. So what are you hoping that young kids will take from this story?
Well, I think the big message here, the takeaway, is empowering kids. The goal is to empower kids to know that they have access to all the books, and it doesn't matter where you come from or who you are, anyone can have a library card. And that is an empowering thing.
It's free.
And it's free. So,
I always thought to myself, we have a large collection of books at home. We're very fortunate in that way, and not everyone is, to have, access to so many books. And the idea of a library giving you access to thousands upon thousands and thousands of books, and they're yours, basically. As long as you have a library card, you're willing to share them with everybody else that has a library card. Those are your books. And there's, wonderful librarians who can help you find those books and put them in your hands. So I think that was kind of the key, light bulb that went off for us is sort of flipping that idea on its head of what is a library? Well, it's yours, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly.
Well, this is a picture book. So for what ages is the book intended?
Well, it's aimed at ages 4 to 8 but honestly, we like to say that anyone who likes books will enjoy all the books.
And libraries.
And libraries, exactly. It's really a celebration of libraries and the books.
And with picture books, it's often an adult who's going to be reading the book to a child. So do you keep that adult audience in mind as well as you're putting the book together?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Of course. So as a father myself, I grew up. I read books to my daughter as she grew up. And When you sit there and you're reading a book to your child or any child, it's an experience that you're having together. And some books those kids want to read over and over and over and over again, and you almost dread like, oh no, don't pick that one because I cannot read that book one more time. So we definitely keep that in back of mind. Is both the child and the parent going to have a unique experience every time they read it? Are they going to see something new? Are they going to get to a new level of what this story is talking about?
Well, and to piggyback on that too, we want to reach the adult as they were when they were young too. There's so much magic at that age, ages 4 to 8. You're discovering the world, and you have so much imagination, and we really want to like remember that part of ourselves. And we're adults, but going back and remembering who we are and who we were when we were young and what inspired us so much really plays into writing and creating picture books, I think.
Well, picture books are this unique marriage of text and photos and how they dance with each other to tell the story. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. But John, how would you describe your illustration style?
Hmm. Uh, well,
You have a few.
I mean, to me, the style, I guess, is really determined by the manuscript. So every book that I approach, I usually go back to certain inspiration. Right now I'm working on a book that's heavily inspired by the WPA muralists of the 1930s, and Diego Rivera and things like that. And sometimes I'm inspired. With this book, I was particularly inspired by the illustrations of N.C. Wyeth and Howard Pyle, and just they had a certain lighting and a certain mood that I wanted to bring into this book. But also, of course, inspired by the early animation, the early Disney animation. So it becomes sort of this colander, if you will, where I put all of this stuff in, all these inspirations, whether it be Maxfield Parrish or anybody, and what comes out of that is, what comes out of my hand. So I don't think too much about style. I think more of what does this story need, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it goes back to what I was talking about, kind of that dance between the text and the pictures, that you're taking inspiration from the text. And another thing that you well know is often picture books are created by an author and an illustrator who work independently and just, are connected by an editor. But as a team, you're doing both. So do you feel like that gives you a creative advantage?
I think it does.
Absolutely.
I've done books, in partnership with other authors, but it's sort of distant. It's via email, or what do you think if we did this, or something. But with how we make books, just from the germ of the idea through the finished product, we're constantly doing, as you say, that dance between picture and word. And so usually the text isn't finalized until I have all the sketches created, because we're saying, oh, we don't need to say that anymore because it's in the pictures, or maybe you can add this text because I can't really illustrate that thought or idea. I always go to, those senses, right? The smells, smell, touch. What does it feel like? What does it smell like? What does it sound like? Those are things that much harder to illustrate.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. And the fun thing about working together, well, it's a blessing and a curse, is we're constantly discussing how to change a story or coming up with story ideas. And I mean, we have to consciously say, okay, we can't talk books. And then it always inevitably comes back to books, but we're passionate about it. So
it works.
It works.
Well, you mentioned this passion for the books. What is it you enjoy about writing for young kids?
Gosh, I mean, I think it goes back again to finding that kid in my own soul and really tapping into that and seeing if kids will relate to that. And I think they
You don't want to tell them about your very first book that you wrote and illustrated?
oh gosh. Yeah. So when I was a little girl, I wanted to become a children's book writer and illustrator. Of course, the illustration part did not work out. Um, but I just I wrote and illustrated a book, my first book. I think it was second grade, and it was called My Dead Pets and Alive. And I actually have it on my website. But we had a lot of interesting and sad stories growing up with some of our hamsters, and it's really about writing what you know, and that's what I knew about when I was a kid. Loved animals, loved picture books, so I combined the two.
And you spent 15 years working in the children's book industry.
Right, exactly. Until I was encouraged to go after my dream of writing children's books again, which
With a cattle prod.
yeah, John was he pushed me over the edge. You need to just do it. And so here we are, and I'm very grateful for it.
The other thing I'd like to point out to someone who's listening to this interview is that you may look at a picture book and think, oh, that's simple. It's short. They can just knock that out really quickly. But it's a work of art, first of all. Let me say that. But also, there are big constraints, and you have to accomplish a lot in a little bit of pages. So tell us a little bit more about the challenge of putting together a picture book.
Oh my gosh.
You hit the nail on the head, Don. Dan, I would say, when you're trying to construct a story in
less than 600
words or less, it's definitely more challenging than writing long form, I think.
Because you've written a novel as well.
Yeah, and longer middle grade type books, but it's you really have to think about how you're going to get the story arc, how those characters are going to grow and change over these 600 words.
And as the writer too, you can't describe what's in the image, which is how you would write if you were writing a novel or something, right? So it can be very tricky to constantly remind yourself, okay, I don't need these particular words or descriptors because that will be in the illustrations, right? And then it is helpful, again, going back to collaborating, because John will catch me sometimes if I do that. But
and vice versa.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely challenging. If
this is why editors are helpful too. We're very grateful for our editor, Alvina Ling, on these books, especially because she can find just the right, like if we're stuck on something, she'll come up with an idea that will help spur us along and keep the story going and make it stronger. So it's a process.
Well, congratulations on this collaboration, all the books. What's next for you, either collaboratively or separately?
So John just finished the illustrations for the follow-up of Piper Waterstone's Piper Waterstone's next adventure, and it's called A Book for Everyone. And that's coming out in fall of 2026. But we also work on conservation focused books. And we have the 6th book in our Meet the Wild Things series coming out. And that's for ages 3 to 7. It's about endangered animals. And our next book is coming out on September 30th. And it's called Hello, I'm a Loris.
And I'm also working on another book on my own, which is a picture book about how we all came to this place called America and the challenges that we had getting here and how we all contribute to what this idea of America is.
This picture book is All the Books by Hayley and John Rocco. Hayley and John, thank you for talking with me today.
Oh, thank you for having us.
pleasure.
This has been wonderful. Thanks, Dan.
If you'd like to purchase all the books, I've placed a link for you in the description below. If you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe, like, and click on the bell so you know when I post new interviews. Meanwhile, here are 2 more books you might find interesting. Well, thank you for watching this edition of the Kids Bookshelf. I'm Dan Skinner. Until next time, keep sharing the gift of reading.